Hi friends, in this video we're going to talk about how to create alerts in Grafana. If you don't know what Grafana is an awesome visualization, analytics and alerting platform where you can build interactive dashboards very easily. I have made a playlist on Grafana and I will leave the link of that playlist in the description. So in this video we're going to talk about how to use Grafana for real-time data monitoring and creating alerts. You can see I've created a blog post on this topic and I will leave the link of this blog post in the description. So I'm going to explain alerting in Grafana using a PostgreSQL data source. In our previous video, we have talked about how to use Grafana to connect to PostgreSQL for time series visualization. I will leave the link of this video in the description. You can see that to understand how to connect PostgreSQL with Grafana. So the thing we are going to achieve in this video is we will visualize PostgreSQL in Grafana and create alerts based on conditions. In our example, we are plotting the temperature from a sensor data present in the PostgreSQL database, and we are going to raise an alert if the temperature rises from a specified threshold value. Suppose if the temperature is greater than 30 degrees, raise an alert. And if the temperature goes below 30 degrees again, then the alert will be removed. Again, if the temperature goes above 30 degrees, then the alert will be raised. So we are going to achieve this setup in this video. And when an alert is raised or an alert is removed, you will get a notification. And we are going to demonstrate how to send alerts from Gmail, and Grafana will use Gmail to send alerts to the specified stakeholders. So this is what we are going to achieve in this video. So let's get started. So before using Grafana to configure alerts, let's try to get to know some concepts, because without knowing that concepts, you can't use Grafana to configure alerts. So we are trying to achieve alerting in Grafana, and to understand Grafana alerts, you need to know about these concepts: alert rules, alert states, contact points and notification policies. So let's try to go through these concepts one by one. So what is an alert rule? So alert rule is basically what it literally means. It's the rule which defines the alert. For example, you can write an alert to check the data continuously each minute and raise an alert if temperature is greater than 30 degrees. And if this condition is met continuously for 5 minutes, then only you can raise an alert. So this is an example of an alerting condition. So in an alerting rule, you define which data source to fetch the data from, and what is the alerting rule, and what is the periodicity of checking the alerts, and how much time the alert should be persisting to raise an alert. So these are all defined in the alerting rule. And the next thing is the alerting states. So there are mainly 3 alert states, which is OK, pending and alerting. Let's take our temperature example. If the temperature is less than 30 degrees, then the state is OK, because no alerting condition is met. If the temperature is greater than 30 degrees for 2 minutes, the state would be pending, because for us to raise an alert, the temperature should be greater than the threshold for 5 minutes, right? So the alerting condition is met, but still the desired duration of the alert is not completed. So that state would be in pending. And if the temperature is greater than the threshold for more than 5 minutes, then the state would be alerting. So this way, the alerting rule can have 3 alert states, which is OK, pending and alerting. And now the temperature again falls back from threshold to normal value, then again the state would be OK state. So this way, these are the 3 alert states. And obviously, if the data source is not responding, or if there is no data in the data source, then the state would be no data. And while evaluating the alert rule, if there is some error, the alert state would be error state. Mostly you would be dealing with these 3 states, OK, pending and alerting. And if there is some data issues, then you may get into these states which are no data and error. So these are alerting states. And the next thing is the contact point. So contact point is basically a notification medium using which you can send your alert information to your stakeholders. So in Grafana, you can have multiple types of contact points like email, webhooks, Slack, Discord, etc. So basically the change in alerting states can be notified using these contact points. And in Grafana, a contact point can be one or more integrations. That means you can define a single contact point and it can have mail and webhook integration both in one contact point. So basically contact point is a group of one or more integrations like email, webhook, etc. And the next thing is a notification policy. So you defined an alerting rule and you defined a contact point. Using the notification policy, you will specify what contact points would be used by the alert rule. This is achieved by attaching labels to the alert rule. So these were the concepts which are required to understand the alerts in Grafana: alert rules, alert states, contact points, and notification policies. Alright, enough of theory, let's try to do the real demo in Grafana. So my Grafana is already up and running in my local host. Let's try to open Grafana. So my Grafana is running at localhost 3000 and I'm presented with a login screen. Let's try to log into Grafana. Alright, now I'm present in the Grafana home screen. So let's try to see my data sources. So in the connections, I'm seeing my data sources and I've already connected a PostgreSQL data source to my Grafana. So if you don't know how to connect a PostgreSQL data source to Grafana, I've already made a video on that and I will leave the link of that video in the description. Please go through that. Alright, the next step is to create a dashboard to show the data from the data source, right? But since there is no data in the data source, I will just populate some dummy data for this demo purpose. In my previous video blog post, where I have connected PostgreSQL to Grafana as a data source, I have given a sample script for populating some dummy data into the database. I have also given you the schema. So you can run this schema to create the dummy table and you can run this script to create a dummy data in the table. So let's try to copy the script and I'm using dbeaver to connect to my database. Dbeaver is an awesome tool using which you can connect to multiple types of databases and do a lot of database administration tasks. If you don't know about dbeaver, I already made a video on that and I will leave the link of that video in the description. Currently, I have connected my dbeaver to my PostgreSQL database and this is the script which I am going to run, and this script is going to create some random data in the database and it will create the random data for the past 1 hour to the next 4 hours. So let's try to run this script. Alright, the script is run and the data is populated in the database. Alright, since I've populated some dummy data in my PostgreSQL database, let's try to visualize here. So I'm going to create a dashboard here by going to the dashboards and let's try to create a new dashboard and add visualization, and I'm going to select to the database as the PostgreSQL database which I've configured already. Let's try to move this up so that we can get some space to see the code. And here, instead of the builder mode, I'm going to go to the code mode and I'm going to write some SQL here to populate the data. So this is going to be my SQL. Select data time as time and temperature as sensor1 temperature, where sensor ID equal to S1, and I'm applying the time filter. So I've already explained these terms in my previous video. So if you don't know how to use PostgreSQL query in Grafana, please refer that video. But for now, we are plotting sensor1 temperature in this Grafana dashboard. So let's try to run this query. And yeah, you got your data here. Since we have inserted the dummy data for only the last 1 hour, this would be empty here. So let's try to convert this from last 6 hours to last 1 hour, and you got your data here. Alright, we are able to successfully create a dashboard showing the temperature from our PostgreSQL database. Let's try to save this. Let's try to name the dashboard as sample dashboard. Save, and I got my dashboard here. Now the next thing is to create an alert, right? Creating alerts in the newer version of Grafana has changed a lot. So let's try to see how it's done. So in the left pane, go for alerting, and here you got alert rules. I've already created some alert rule. Let's try to delete that already. So now I don't have any alert rules. Let's try to create a new alert rule. Let's try to give a name to this alert rule. I'll just name it sensor1 alert. Alright. Now we need to define the query. Again, let's go to the code mode and let's try to define the alert. And here in the options, you will define how much period of data is to be fetched. And here in the options, I'm getting the last 10 minutes data, which is okay for me because for alert evaluation, last 10 minutes data is more than enough for me. But if you want to change your time range of fetching the data, you can just change it here. But I'm okay with now minus 10 minutes and apply time range. That's it. Now again, let's try to paste our query to fetch the data. Let's try to run the query. And here is the data which we are fetching, the last 10 minutes data. So in this way, you can check whether your query is right or wrong. So we have successfully defined the query to fetch the data for our alerting condition, and we have checked it here. Alright, we have mentioned the name of the alert. We have defined the query to fetch the data for the alert. Now let's try to create an expression to do alert evaluation. So my alert evaluation rule would be create an alert if the threshold is greater than 30 degrees. So just scroll down and they've already given you some easy expressions. The first expression is the reduce expression and the second expression is the threshold expression. So reduce expression, just as the name implies, you can reduce the whole series data into one number. So the alias of my input query is A. It can be seen right here, and the input to this reduce query is the A. So A is being input for this reduce query, and they are taking the last one, but I would like to take the maximum value. That means in the last 10 minutes I'm going to take the maximum value, and the value would be here 27 degrees. You can see the preview value also. Let's try to preview again. The maximum value in the last 10 minutes was 29 degrees, and for alerts to work the output should be 0 or 1. So that can be achieved using the threshold expression. So the input would be this query, which is the B query. So input would be B, and if it's above 30 degrees the threshold is satisfied. So is above would be converted to 30 degrees. So we have defined that if B is greater than 30 degrees, then fire the alert. Let's try to preview again. Now it's normal. Previously the query was 0 and obviously the data was above 0. So if you preview, it was firing, the alert was in alert state. And now if I made the query is above 30 degrees and preview, now the state is normal. So first we defined our data fetch query, and then we have defined two expressions which would get a result from the whole data fetched as a single value using the reduce expression, maximum of the data, and then I am applying a threshold filter to see whether the data has crossed the threshold. So just with two expressions, I was able to define my alerting condition. In fact, people who are using some previous versions of Grafana, you can create a classic condition also. Let's try to delete these two conditions in fact, and create a new expression, add expression classic condition, and here the condition would be a single condition when maximum of A is above 30 degrees. The alert should be fired. So set this as alerting condition in fact, and now preview, now it's firing. That means the data would have been greater than 30 degrees, and you can see it here, the data was 30.9. So that's why it's firing. So you can even create a simple classic condition, or you can create reduce and threshold conditions. In fact, let's try to see some more expression possibilities. I'll just add a new expression and create a math expression, and this is useful if you want to create transformation. Suppose you have two queries and you want to add them. So if you have a query A and a query B, you can even add them using math expression, something like that. So that would be for some complex scenarios where you would want to do transformations on your queries. That means you want to do double of your values, or you want to subtract two queries or add two queries. So for those complex calculations, you can use the math expression. But for our example, it's a simple threshold matching alerting condition. So I'm just using a classic condition, and I'm saying that if the maximum of the data fetched is above 30 degrees, just fire an alert. Let's try to preview this again. It's still firing because the data is above 30 degrees, 30.3. If the data comes below this threshold, then it would be normal. Alright, we have defined our alert rule, and the next thing is the evaluation behavior. So this will define what is the periodicity of evaluating the alerts. That means we may define that check for the alerts for every 1 minute, or check for the alerts every 5 minutes. So this is the evaluation behavior. So to set an evaluation behavior, you need to have a folder. But if you want a new folder, you can just click on new folder and enter the name demo folder and click create, and now you are using your new folder. And to define the periodicity of alert evaluation or alert checking, you need to have an evaluation group where you define the alerting checking periodicity. So you need to select an evaluation group. If you don't have any evaluation group, just create a new evaluation group by clicking this button, and here enter a name. So here I'm going to write something like temperature evaluation group, and I want to check every 1 minute. So I'm going to make the interval as 1m. So every 1 minute the alerting condition would be checked. So create this alerting evaluation group. So now all the rules in this selected group would be evaluated every 1 minute. And the next thing is the pending period. So pending period is basically the amount of the time for which the alert should be continuously violating. That means you can define an alert that if the temperature is continuously violating for 5 minutes at a stretch, then only fire an alert. So if you want to create a alerting condition, something like that, then you can use the pending period. Otherwise you can just make it 0. That means whenever an alert is met, immediately the alert would be fired. If you write pending period something like 10 minutes, that means if the data is continuously violating for 10 minutes, then only alert will be filed. So for our example, to make it simple, let's make the pending period as 0. That means as soon as the alert is met, the alert will be fired. And you can leave this default. If there is no data, the state would be no data, and if the execution error or if there is some timeout, you can make the state as error. So it's okay to keep this as the default options. And then the next step in defining the alerting rule is adding the annotations. It's just basically telling the summary of the alerts. You can define it if you want. Let's try to describe our alert here. Alright, we have described our alert here. And then the next important thing is, how can you convey your alerts to your notification channels, or how can you send an email for your alert? That's possible by giving labels to your alerts. So let's try to give some labels to our alerts. So label is basically a key value pair. Let's give a label team equal to infra. So this is basically the convention generally used. You give the tags to your alerts, and based upon the tags you can route your alerts to your notification channels. Suppose if there is an organization and you kept the sensor in the server room and the concerned team is the infrastructure maintenance team, then I would keep the label team equal to infra. So that is the general convention, or else you can keep any label you want. You can just write some key value pairs here, and that's it. Now you have defined the rule. Just try to save the rule and exit, and we have saved our rules. So we have defined a rule here, and you can see already the rule is normal here, and the next evaluation period is within the 1 minute. That means every 1 minute the rule is going to be evaluated. Now if you want to pause this rule, how can you do that? It's really simple actually. Let's try to see how it can be paused. Go to the edit button, and you can see the editing screen of the rule, and in the alert evaluation behavior you can pause evaluation. Now save the rule. Now the rule won't be evaluated. That means the rule checking is paused now. So if you go to the alert rules, if you expand this sensor 1 alert, this rule is paused now. Unless you unpause the rule will not be checked. So the alert is paused now. So we have successfully defined an alert rule. Now the next thing is the contact point. So I've already created a contact point. Let's try to delete that. Let's try to create it again. Okay, we are telling that the contact point is already being used in some policy. Let's try to go to my notification policy, and I want to even delete this policy. Let's try to delete this notification policy, and let's try to go and delete this contact point. All right, now let's try to create a fresh contact point. So our contact point is going to be an email. So let's try to add a contact point. Let's try to name it as infra team email, and the integration would be an email integration. And let me try to send the email to my infra team. So suppose the email is infra@abcd.com. So this is my email of the infra team. And optional email settings, you can send a single email to all the email addresses. Suppose if I have two email addresses like infra@abcd.com and infra2@abcd.com, a single message would be sent to these two emails at once, and you can give an optional message, and that's it. It's that simple to create a contact point. And then if you want to add one more integration in the same contact point, you can do that. Let's go here and add a contact point integration. So here you can add one more email, or you can add something like Discord or whatever. So for this example, let's make it simple and create just a single email address as one contact point. Now let's try to save the contact point. Now let's go to edit this contact point, and now you can see all the contact point details here. So we are using an email contact point, right? So Grafana should be able to send an email to this contact point. So for that, you need to configure Grafana to use email. In our example, we are using Google's email in Grafana to send emails. So how can I do that? So let's try to see how we can configure email in Grafana. So Grafana is installed in my computer. So we have a folder called C program files Grafana labs Grafana conf. So in that folder you have defaults.ini. Let's try to open this default.ini. Let's try to right click and open with, you can use any notepad, but I'm using VS Code because I'll get the easy syntax highlighting. And here I'm going to search for Control F SMTP, and there's a section called SMTP, and this data would be used by Grafana to send emails. So if you are using Gmail to send emails from Grafana, the setting should be something like this. First, make enabled equal to true, and the host would be smtp.gmail.com or any SMTP host you are using. Suppose you have your organization's Outlook email, you can use those settings, but for this example I'm using the Gmail's SMTP settings. So this would be the same for all Gmail accounts, smtp.gmail.com:587, and here the username would be the Gmail address from which you are sending the Gmail, and the password would be the app password. Let's try to see how we can create the app password. We will see that in a while. And you can make skip verify equal to false, and from address would be the email address which you are using, and the from name, for example here I'm using Grafana, but you can use your company's name like Acme IT department or something like that. So let's try to see how we can get this password. So log into your Google and go to accounts.google.com or myaccount.google.com, or just click on this and click on your account here, and then go to the security tab, and here in the search bar just search for app passwords, and here you got this app passwords. Go here, and now I got some app passwords here. If you want to create an app password, let's try to do it now. Grafana 2, I'll create a second app password now. Grafana 2, create, and now I got an app password. Let's try to copy this, copy, and done. Now I got an app password which I can use in my Grafana settings. So I'll go to this VS Code and paste my app password here. Obviously there should not be spaces, remove these spaces, and that's it. Now I can use my Gmail account to send emails. Now I configured Grafana to send emails. Now let's try to close the defaults.ini. Let's try to close this VS Code also. Let's try to close our Gmail. And now since I've got my SMTP settings right, I can test my SMTP. So I've created integration, right? Let's try to test this. Test and send test notification. You can see test alert is sent. And in my sent email, I can see my test notification is sent actually, notification test. So that's how you can configure Grafana to send emails, and you can configure a contact point to send email to a particular email address. So till now we have configured an alert rule, we have configured a contact point, and now you need to connect this alert rule with the contact point, right? For that you have notification policies. So by default, notification policy is the default policy which will use the email, but I want to create a new policy. So click on the new nested policy, and remember the label which we have used in our alert rule. Let's try to use that here. I can write team equal to infra. So that was the label I used in my alert. So if I use this policy would be matched with that alert rule, and that alert rule will use this policy to send notifications. So the contact point which will be used by this policy is obviously the infra team email, and that's it. Save policy. Now see this here. If there is a label called team equal to infra in your alert rule, infra team email contact point would be used. So this way, using notification policy, I was able to connect my alert rule with a contact point. So that's it. Very easily we have created an alert rule, and we have connected a contact point with the alert rule to notify the changes in alert state. But hey, I did not link my alert with the dashboard so that I can overlay the alerts of my alert rules on the dashboard, right? For example, let's go to our dashboard, dashboards, and my sample dashboard. I'm not able to see any alert state here, right? So how can I link my alert rule with this dashboard panel? How can I do that? Let's go to our alert rules, alerting, alert rules, and in the demo folder, this was my alert rule, right? Let's go to edit this alert rule, and here there is a provision to link your alert rule with the dashboard. In the section add annotations, which is the fourth section, you can see link dashboard and panel. Let's click on this and select the dashboard. Our dashboard was sample dashboard, and there is one panel, and that panel is shown here. Click on this panel, confirm. Now the dashboard panel is linked with this alert rule. Save this rule and exit, and now let's go to the dashboards. Let's go to our sample dashboard. Now you can see the alert state here being shown. In fact, let's try to expand this, and let's try to make the alert threshold very less so that we can see the alert here actually. So let's try to save this dashboard again, and now let's try to change our alert rule. Let's go to alerts and alert rules. Let's try to make the threshold very less so that the alert will be triggered. Let's try to click on edit. In fact, let's try to unpause our alert so that evaluation will go on. Pause evaluation will be removed, and then we are evaluating every 1 minute, right? But for this demo, let's evaluate every 10 seconds. Click on this edit, and here instead of 1 minute, 10 seconds, save. And then in the alert rule, in the threshold, let's make it above something like 15 degrees so that it will fire definitely. Preview this. It's firing. Let's try to save the rule. And now let's go to the dashboards, dashboard, sample dashboard. And now within 10 seconds, you should see an alert here because the threshold is just 15 degrees. Let's try to reload. Now you got an alert saying that the alert has crossed the threshold. And if you hover over this, you can see sensor 1 alert, and the value is 30.93. So this way you can overlay your alerts on your existing panels. And now let's try to make the threshold up again so that the alert would be coming to normal state. So again, let's go to the alerts, alert rules, and let's go to our alert rule, edit this. Sorry, it's the evaluation group. Expand this and go to this alert, edit, and here let's try to make the condition above 30 degrees. Preview. It's firing still because the value is greater than 30. Let's make it 35. and let's try to preview this. Now it's normal. Save the rule and exit. And now let's go to the dashboards, sample dashboard, and now let's try to wait for 10 seconds. Refresh this again, and now you are in the OK state. So this way, as the alert rule evaluation goes on, if there is some kind of violation in the threshold, or if it's again less than the threshold, the alert state would be changing, and for each alert change you should get a notification. Let's try to go to our Gmail, and if you see the sent mail, you can see there is a firing alert which is notifying that the alert has fired. So this way you can even send notifications if there are alert violations. So the alert is still not greater than 35 degrees, so the alert is still okay in state. So if the temperature crosses 35 degrees, then again there will be something like an alerting state. Alright, let's go to our alert rules and let's try to change the alert evaluation for every 1 minute instead of 10 seconds. So let's go to the alerts, edit it, and make the evaluation behavior as 1 minute instead of 10 seconds. So click on this edit button, and instead of 10 seconds make it something like 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes the temperature would be evaluated. And now if you want to see the state history, at what times the alert was fired, let's go to the alert rules, and if you expand this alert, you can see something like a state history. Click on show state history, and this is the state history. So now if the alert goes from normal to alerting, you will see a new entry here. So this way you can see at what time the thresholds were violated and at what time the value has come again below the threshold. So you can see the transition of the alert states using the state history. So that's it guys. Let's go to our dashboard, sample dashboard, and this is how you can see your alerts in Grafana. Now this way you can configure multiple alerts in Grafana and you can get multiple notifications, you can group your alerts and do a lot of convenient alerting. So this was a simple example of how to create and manage alerts in Grafana. You can see I've created a blog post on creating and managing alerts in Grafana. I've given you the notes and I've also given you the configuration screen so that you can easily configure alerts in Grafana for your own use cases. I've also given you the link to the official demo video. You can even go through this if you want to know more or if you want to get to know in depth about alerting in Grafana. But in our video, we have just covered how to very easily set up alerts in Grafana. So please be sure to check out the link of this blog post in the description of this video. Please ask questions or post your valuable feedback in the comment section. Hope you like this video guys. Thank you for watching. Peace.